All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So, welcome to day number 17. All right, so 17 days in a row. I've been showing up and making art and live streaming during the weekdays. So, really glad that you're tuning in. And as always, if you want to pop into the comments and say hi, let us know where you're tuning in from. I bet there's a lot of folks that have been tuning in that are still tuning in, and hopefully we have some new folks as well. So today, I was thinking about what I wanted to do, and I was thinking about what I did yesterday. Yesterday, I kind of created a very organic form using collage and watercolor and ink and things, and I really liked it. But then I was kind of looking at it today, and I felt like, in a way, it felt a little too solid, if that makes any sense. And I started thinking, like, well, what can I do to kind of change it up to make it better? To kind of thinking about what else I've done too, because the organic ones are a little bit different than some of the others that I've been doing in this series. So I really thought, like, okay, well, what if I combine the ideas? So a lot of my work up until this point has been very geometric. I'm not a big fan of geometric shapes, but I use a lot of squares, rectangles, and circles, especially because it gives a lot of structure to the pieces. And so I think with some of like the two more organic pieces that I've made in this series, that's one of the things that they're lacking. And so I thought, well, why don't I just kind of think about putting them together? And in some pieces, I've done that a little bit. I've used geometric and then put some more organic lines in it. But I was thinking today about trying to figure out how to kind of combine these two notions. And so I've been working very intuitively here up until this point, and now it's kind of, I'm getting in that more reflective mode, like, okay, this is what I've been doing, these are the things that I'm liking, these are the things that I feel like I want to do moving forward. And I think that's kind of like what art is that we try some things out, kind of figure out what we like, what we don't like, and then figure out ways to maybe combine ideas or figure out ways to kind of move ourselves forward. And so that's kind of what I'm thinking about today is how to take the organic kind of tree-like image that I made yesterday and combine it with the structure of the geometric. But still, I don't know how that's going to work out. I don't have this image in my mind. I just kind of have this vague notion. And today I'm going to like sit down and try to work that out and see what comes about from it. And just remember, you don't have to do what I'm doing. I know several of you have kind of been following along and kind of taking my lead with things, but and that's a great way to learn. And I'm not saying don't do that, but this really is just a space for people to come and make art together. So again, if you're tuning in and you want to pop into the comments and say hi, it's always awesome to see people. And oh, great, we got Rhonda back again, and we've got Layla from Norway. So awesome. Um, it's always great to see people tuning in, so that way I don't feel like I'm just talking to empty space. But anyway, so just realized that I had it on mute and that you may not have been able to hear me, thinking, what is going on? So, and I've been sitting here talking and talking and talking, and sorry about that. The whole, my internet went down, and then I got it back up, and then I forgot to hit the unmute button. So I apologize for that. Gotta love technology. Anyway, what I was saying is that I'm building up and combining the organic and the geometric, and so I kind of did a background using that magenta color, and now I'm using this fuchsia Inktense pencil on top to start that structure, that geometric structure. As I've said before, I'm not a huge fan of the geometric. You might not think that, like, because a lot of my work uses it. It's just, for me, it's about structure. Geometric shapes tend just to be very static, and but I use them a lot, and it's one of those things where I'm trying to think about, well, why, and I think that's like with art. It's like a lot of times we'll do stuff and we're just like, okay, I do that because there's something about it, but I don't necessarily know why. And I think kind of trying to figure that out as part of like figuring out what our style is, and why are we making the choices that we make. And like I've said this over and over again, that it is about structure, that the geometric really kind of gives a structure to the surface that echoes. I mean, the paper's a square, or a lot of times I'll use rectangular paper. So squares and rectangles echo that, and even circles, very geometric, they relate to squares and rectangles. But I think they're also just very ordinary shapes, and that I like using them because then I can make something extraordinary out of it. Just taking these plain, simple shapes and then turning them into some kind of complex work of art. Throw in some collage. One of the things that I've noticed with this series that I've been doing is that, I use a lot of the geometric shapes, but I've really gotten into this, and maybe it's just because it's the format of like using three squares kind of down one side is something that I've done a lot over the last couple weeks. And then another thing that I've really been enjoying doing is taking collage, making a strip, and going down right through the middle of those shapes. And, just kind of thinking about style, our style emerges because we are, we do certain things over and over again in our art. And so, I kind of feel like, okay, these are, using the geometric lines, layering the materials, those are all stylistic concerns for me, things that I've developed over the years. And then working on these pieces every day, there are other things that kind of are popping up, things that I'm turning to that I may have used in past artwork, but I find that, like, okay, showing up every day, it's like I keep coming back to some of the same things, the same ideas, and that becomes my style. So that way, whenever you look at my work, there are elements that are very cohesive. And unfortunately, I think sometimes with beginning artists that they feel like, oh, well, I have to always do something totally different. And it's like, well, no, you have a style. I always make the correlation to music. It's like, even if you hear a song by a band that you like, a lot of times, even if you don't know that song or you don't know it that well, you know it's by them because of the style. And then sometimes you hear a song by them and you're like, you find out who the band was and you're like, really? That was them? That's so different. So I think, with artists, it's a similar thing, is that there are certain colors, certain shapes, certain imagery that we are attracted to, and we repeat them. But we're not making the same piece of artwork every time. We're changing. We're making it different. We're exploring the different possibilities with it. Alright. Go ahead and hit that with the hair dryer. Okay, I think I'm going to add some circles. Just going to use my black pen to draw in some horizontal and vertical lines. So I'm just trying to create a bit of a structure, a bit of a geometric background, and now I want to take and create some of the more organic lines. So kind of thinking back to like what I was doing yesterday. And then, so I have that slightly darker, deep rose color. And then just going to draw some of these lines. I'm going to take a moment. Somebody, Linda, is mentioning that hers is still stuck, so I'm just going to reply to her real quick. And see if she can get hers fixed. Technology is great when it works. Oh, actually, I want to do more. Get myself distracted. So Kathy was asking about, in the comments, about my artwork. I have a website. It's ericscottart.com, and on there I have some artwork for sale. Of course, I'm also on Instagram, so I've been posting every day's artwork that I've been making on there. And then I'm thinking what I might do is at the end of the month, after I do all 30 days with this, is to take these little pieces and post them and have kind of like a 1-day sale or something. And then that way, if you have been joining in and you're like, oh, I really like that one piece, I think I am planning on selling them off at the end of the month. So at least maybe some of them. Okay. So I think maybe kind of think about like what I was doing yesterday and maybe cut out some of these smaller shapes. Sometimes I feel like making art is really just about moving a bunch of stuff around as you try to like make space so that you can work, or trying to find the pieces that you need. So like yesterday, I'm trying to put some of these little pieces throughout the composition, help balance things out. So I don't think I'm going to do like I did yesterday where I put a whole bunch of these pieces, because I do want what I put in the background to show through. So I think that should be pretty good. And I've got a slightly thicker black pen. Oh, let me close up my glue stick. And you know what? Before I hit this with ink, sometimes I have a problem with the with glue. Sometimes there's a little bit of glue at the edges. So let me go ahead and dry it first. Okay. So I've kind of changed things up a little bit. Yesterday, before I did the ink, I did some of the Inktense pencil. But that's a nice thing. It's like there's no set process. I'm just sort of making it up as I go. I mean, I haven't really done anything like this before. Okay, so I do want to make some kind of distinction between what's happening in the organic section and then the background. I think I could use the ink tents like I did yesterday, but I think I'm going to grab the watercolor. Maybe go in with a little bit of this magenta. I was kind of thinking about like, oh, maybe I could like do a little bit of like value and shading, but I just think maybe just darkening it a little bit. I do find that sometimes this pen will smudge a little bit or kind of not blend, not really, it'll bleed a little bit. So even though it's waterproof, sometimes just not giving it enough time to dry. But actually that might be good with kind of darkening the organic form a little bit. I think I want a slightly darker, so I'm going to use a little bit of this purple. Oop, that's a little too dark. So when I get it too dark, I just kind of dip my brush into the water real quick and try to dilute the dark value. So the ink has faded a little bit where I painted over it in some areas, not in all areas. But I do want to go back and rework some of my lines here. That'll give me the opportunity if I want to make some of them a little thicker and a little bolder. There's one thing I want to do before I'm going to add some colored pencil, but before I do that, these circles in the background, I like them, but I want to maybe do something else. I'm going to take one of my Inktense pencils. This is Sea Blue. You can tell that I like it a lot. I've almost used the whole thing up. I'm going to do a little bit there, but then even up here in this one. And then maybe down this one. And then I think I'll hit this one over here. And just like yesterday, I'm going to pull out my colored pencils. So the colored pencils just allow me to add a little bit of shading. So now I'm just kind of using some white just to put a few little highlights on. And then I'm going to use this purple, this royal purple. Just a little bit of shading. And I'm not hitting every shape, just here and there. And finally I have this, it's called Deep Fuchsia. So that goes nicely with the color scheme. I think call this one done and sign it. Okay, well, thank you for sticking with me. I'm sorry that at the beginning we had some technical issues, but luckily the internet held out. And then once I figured out that I had myself muted and I unmuted myself, I think things kind of worked out. So yeah, so today it was really just about looking back at some of the things that I've really liked and trying to figure out how to maybe combine ideas. I'm not 100% certain how much I like this one. I like it to some degree, but I don't know. It's not like knocking my socks off right now. Maybe I'll change my mind as I look at it over the next couple of days. But that's the nice thing is like if something just doesn't wow you at first, sometimes things just don't go the way you had planned. You can always just set it aside, come back to it later. So anyway, but if you've got any questions, any comments, any concerns, feel free to pop them into the comments, and I'll try to answer them the best that I can. And I always try to take some time to respond, kind of type up some kind of response too. So anyway, Thanks so much for hanging in there and joining me for day number 17. I'll be back tomorrow, barring any kind of internet troubles, at 4 p.m. So hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. But again, if you have any questions, any comments, any concerns, post them in the comments. And as always, I'd love to see what you're doing. So some of you have been sharing, some of you post them in the comments, some of you send them to me through direct message or through email. Totally awesome to see that. So if you've been working on things and you want to share, I definitely would love to see. And you can always either post them in the comments here, or you can tag me on social media. So anyway, yeah, if you've got any questions, any concerns, let me know, and I will see you all tomorrow, hopefully, if the internet holds up.